Welcome back. You're tuned into Halftime Report here on CNBC TV 18. Now, sources say that the industry raises concerns on the ambiguity of export pricing with no clarity on remission rates 4 months into the year. Anshu Sharma is picking up all these details and she's joining in to give us that quick update. Hi Anshu, over to you.
Thanks for that, Nigel. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal held a meeting with Exporters Promotion Council yesterday, and he took up all the issues of the exporters. Now, industry sources have told us that there is an ambiguity with regards to pricing for exporting products in the absence of or clarity of remission duties that the government has to let the industry know. Now, this RoDTEP or remission of duties and taxes for promotion of exports is supposed to be implemented from January 1. But so far, remission rates are not out, despite the fact that GK Pillai-led commission panel has submitted its report on the industry-wise remission rates. Now, we are given to understand from industry sources that the allocation so far given to for this RoDTEP scheme is 13,000 crore, which is way too less than promised by the finance minister, which was close to 50,000 crore. And even for the earlier scheme, which was not WTO compliant, MEIS had about 40,000 crore for reimbursement to the exporters. Now, this 13,000 crore rupees, which is there for RoDTEP, is a small amount for the exporters to get their duties and taxes remissioned by the government. Now, we are given to understand that Commerce Ministry has sought an increase of RoDTEP fund. We hope and we are expecting that this is being worked out by the finance minister. Now, Piyush Goyal has said that issues of RoDTEP, MEIS and inverted duty structure has been discussed with the finance minister for early resolution, and he has personally encouraged the industry to take advantage of the production linked scheme, where it is thought that most of the fund is being diverted to. Now, apart from that, aluminium industry in specific has asked for 5% remission duty to keep itself economically viable and globally competitive. So we'll have to wait and watch out whether the finance ministry will increase the fund for RoDTEP and how soon the remission rates will be given to the industry. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much for that. On that note, we need to take a short break. But up next, we'll get chatting with the management of KEC International. We have... Welcome back. Well, let's get talking about numbers then. We have Q4 numbers coming out from KEC International, and we have Mr. Rajiv Agrawal, the CFO of the company, joining in to discuss it. Mr. Agrawal, hi, welcome to the show. Well, you had your revenue, which was up around 18.8%. Your margins also just about maintained at around 8.1%, and a profit which was absolutely flat. Can you just tell us what led to this 18 to 19% growth that you saw in terms of your revenues? And what were the cost pressures like this quarter?
So good afternoon to all of you. So basically in Q4, we have posted a revenue growth of 19%, which was helped by a good execution in all the regions that we have been executing the project. The first quarter revenue was impacted mainly by the lockdown of almost 6 weeks in India. But in Q2 and Q3 onwards, we started, posting good results on the back of good execution. We were able to ramp up our execution at all the sites very fast after the lockdown was lifted in the middle of May. And Q4 revenue, because we had a large order book. So on the back of good large order book, we were able to ramp up our execution, particularly in our non-T&D vertical. Railways and civil have done very well this year. They have been able to post a growth of railways have done almost 34% growth. Civil virtually tripled their revenues on the basis of the low base last year, but this year they have crossed a revenue of 1,000 crore. So basically this entire growth has been driven by our non-T&D business, and that is how we have been able to post almost 20% growth in this quarter.
Okay, I understand that's on your revenue, but I also asked you about your margins because they've shrunk around 200 basis points on a year-on-year basis. If you could just tell us what are the cost pressures you faced this quarter. We understand there were high subcontractor charges, but there's also been a huge surge in commodity prices as well. How much of that impacted you, and what can we expect specifically on your margins going forward?
So basically in Q4, if you look at, if we divide the results into two parts, one is the standalone results. Our standalone margin are still intact at double-digit margin. So we have posted in Q4 10% margin as against 10.3, 10.4% last year. Actually, the impact has largely come from our SAE vertical in Brazil, where we have been executing 3 or 4 major EPC projects. There, because of the bad COVID situation in the Brazil, these projects have suffered huge time and cost overrun. Steel availability has become very, very tight. The prices of steel has went up very, very high in that country. So these margin impact largely is coming from the SAE, where this quarter has been particularly bad, and there was a loss of almost close to 60-70 crore in this quarter. So that has really impacted our margin. Commodity had some play, but commodity, since we were carrying on some stocks from the previous quarters, so generally we keep an inventory of almost 45 to 60 days. So impact was very limited on the commodity front. So SAE was a main reason which has impacted our margin. Going forward, I think in Q4, again, because of the commodity prices are continuing to be very, very high. So there will be some impact, but it is difficult to quantify the number as of now. But as we execute, there will be some impact of the commodity prices in Q1 onwards.
Mr. Agarwal, just a simple question. Should we assume that double-digit margins is not doable in the first half of this fiscal year, at least, given the way that the commodity prices have moved up? So should viewers and investors stick to that 8 to 9% range? Could you confirm that first? And also, remember the last time we spoke to the management, they indicated that things will be sorted out in Brazil in the first quarter. Are things smoother right there? Do you see that Brazil will not hamper operations for the first half of this year?
So, Nigel, basically, as far as the Brazil is concerned, the impact still continues because there is a very bad situation of COVID second wave over there. And, although we were expecting that the things will start improving, and we do expect that, things will be better this year compared to the last year. But I don't think that Q1 would be better. The impact will still continue in Q1 because some of the older projects will get completed in Q2. Of the current financial year. As far as the commodity prices is concerned, yes, definitely, the steel continues to be at a very high, elevated level, and therefore the impact of steel prices will have some impact, on the revenues in Q1 this year. So difficult to achieve, a double-digit margin in Q1 and particularly in H1, but so margin will be impacted in Q1 and particularly in H1 due to the commodity prices and partial impact from the Brazil.
All right, Mr. Agarwal, but what's worked for you all tremendously well is that diversification or the focus on civil as well as railway work. And as you mentioned, out there growth has been absolutely splendid. Give us a couple of numbers. What's the outlook for FY22 on both these two verticals? The last time you joined us, we were talking about growing in the railways business by at least 20%. And in the civil business, on a low base, I think it contributes only 9-10% of the total revenues right now. It's expected to grow by around 40 to 50%. Could you give us some guidance for FY22?
So FY22, again, as we guided earlier, we are still, let's say, confident on the railway business and the civil business to post a healthy growth even for the FY22. So railway should continue to grow at about 20% because now the base has become really large enough. We posted a revenue of 3,400 crore last year. On that revenue base, I think 20% growth will be a decent growth in the current year. On the civil, since the base, although it has crossed a turnover of 1,000 crore, but still we expect on the basis of the good order intake that we had last year, we should be able to do at least 40-50% growth definitely in civil business as well.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's strong guidance which is coming in as well. Thanks. We're going to wrap up on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and talking to us. So that's KEC International. Stock is up around 1.5% at this point in time. We'll take a break, but up next we'll get chatting on the technicals of the market. Plus, we'll get you some views on the pharmaceutical space as well. Stay tuned.